We're going to visit a place today called Old Oakland Cemetery here in North Florida. Learned about this place from one of my customers. He actually takes care of it. And he mentioned to me that there's a lot of the early soldiers buried here. It's supposed to be a state representative or a senator. I can't remember which one he said. But it's supposed to be quite a bit of historical people buried in this cemetery. The last burial in this cemetery that I could find online was 2.5 years ago. The earliest burial I could find was like 1836, 1837. So that makes this cemetery somewhere around 190 years old. In today's world, this place is in the edge of houses and some different little neighborhoods around it. Still not really a city environment. But back in its time, it would have been in the heart of what is known as San Pedro Bay. And not too far, for those of you that like history, from what is called Bellamy, was known as Bellamy's Road or Bellamy's Trail, if you're familiar with that. Let's get up here and check it out. See what's in there. According to the internet, there's somewhere around 150, 160 graves. And there is not a lock on the gate. I'll just bring you in when we get over to the headstones, because this grass is kind of high and this is rattlesnake and water moccasin heaven. See a few stones here, they look newer. We're going to walk over by them and look. If they're not anything historical, I won't record them. But looks like the majority of the stuff is in the back on the highest point. So I'll probably meet you back there. So we're standing kind of in the middle of the cemetery here now. That gate down there is where we come in. That's the newer ones I marked out to you. We'll come back across. I see a few over there behind those. And then when we come down, I can see some wrought iron fencing over here and some more. So we're going to ease first over to where those trees are. Start there. There's a Southern Cross in front of that one. Let's start here in the back. This tall one. Okay, this is F.J. Jeffcoat. That actually stands for Flavius Joseph Jeffcoat. Born February 5th, 1872 and died June the 11th, 1910. Him and his brother actually died on the same day. Interesting article on them online. I'll read it to you here. This was an ad that was printed. Caused by a yearling calf at Greenville. The bloody interfamily fight at Greenville, Florida, Saturday afternoon was the outcome of a dispute over a yearling calf. As a result, the fight of the 3 men are dead and 4th is dying, according to the latest news received here. Will Sheffield had accused Will J. Jeffcoat, which is also buried here, that's Mr. Flavius's brother, of stealing the yearling, and the case was being tried in the Court of Justice at the Peace Griffin. The court was at the railroad depot, and Will Sheffield and Will Jeffcoat met on the depot platform and began disputing over the case. A fight began in which the men attacked each other with their knives. Flavius came to the assistance of his brother with a knife in his hand, which he had not opened, it is said. Louis Sheffield, a brother of Will Sheffield, then rushed up and joined in the fight. In the meantime, Will Sheffield had been frightfully stabbed and gashed, and all 3 of the combination were streaming with blood. When Louis Sheffield joined the fight, the Jeffcoats clinched for him, but he broke away and, running a few feet, fired upon them with a pistol. He shot Will Jeffcoat through the head, killing him instantly. He shot Flavius, who died later. Will Sheffield was terribly cut by the Jeffcoats and died during the night. The 4th, Louis, who was last to join in the bloody battle, is the only survivor, but it's reported here that the stabs he received from the Jeffcoats will result in fatality. He was removed to a nearby drugstore for medical attention immediately after he shot the Jeffcoat brothers and terminated the battle. Charlie Barnes, equipman, who was in Greenville Saturday, saw the scene of the fight just after it ended and said the depot platform was splashed with blood, and the spectacle of the 3 men dead and dying covered with blood, their clothing and ribbons lying within a few feet of each other, was horrible. According to the report, none of the principals were drinking. They were all white men, and some of them middle-aged. The battle, which equals the worst feud encounters, seems to have grown entirely out of the case about the yearling. There has been no further trouble. Kind of interesting that they killed each other over that. Let's see if we can find the brothers. So I don't see the brothers. I would have thought it would have been back there by the other 2 Jeff Coates. But now buried out in front of him here, where you see the Southern Cross, is Leighton Maynard Perry. Born in 1843 and died in 1872, drowned in Tampa Bay. Having that Confederate States cross in front of him, I would believe he has some history, but I just could not find none. We can see on his headstone it says Captain of the Confederate States Army, and it even says drowned in Tampa Bay on his headstone. But I just couldn't really find much on him. So we're still over in this corner, easing down through here. See several around that tree. We'll leave over there. And I'm sure there's a lot of unmarked graves in a cemetery this old. You can see there's some old ones in there. That one is a Miller. Henley. I believe all 3 of these are Henley. We're gonna make our way over there shortly. See the old fence. Some of the old graves with brick piled on them. While we're here, let's go ahead and do these that's on the back side here. Now just outside this wrought iron fence, so broke up stone here, is actually Colonel Sampson Hale Butler. He was a U.S. congressman, attended South Carolina College, which is now known as the University of South Carolina, and studied law. Attained admission into the bar in 1825 and began his practice in Edgefield and later in Barnwell. Active in the militia in the early 1830s, he was elected commander of the regiment of the rank of colonel. He was actually sheriff of Barnwell County from 1832 to 1839 and a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives from 1832 to 1835. In 1838, he was the successful Democratic nominee for a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives and served 1 full term and part of another. He resigned because of his ill health in September of 1842. He was a supporter of John C. Calhoun in Congress and advocated states' rights, nullification, and the extension of slavery. After leaving Congress, he returned to practicing law and later moved to Florida, living in Tallahassee until moving to Madison, where he continued to practice law until his death. That's pretty cool. A politician. Let's see, we still got quite a few headstones here. Got a tree down over there. Let's slip up on this concrete slab and see who we got here. Mamie Elizabeth Dozier. Mamie was the daughter of John Sullivan Dozier. His headstone here is in pieces. Article found online describes February 9, 1906, tragic death of John Dozier. Printed in the DeSoto County News. Accidentally killed while duck hunting. He was one of Madison's most prominent citizens. The whole community is shocked. Greenville, February the 4th. Mr. Dozier was accidentally killed while duck hunting in the Hickstown Pond yesterday afternoon. In the company of a boatman, was returning to the landing when Mr. Dozier's shotgun, which was resting in the boat behind him, was accidentally discharged. The shot entered the right leg below the knee and passed entirely through the limb and bottom of the boat. The boat, in a sinking condition, was hurriedly landed and medical aid summoned. Death resulted, however, in a short time from hemorrhage and shock. Says here, too, that he was the father of our fellow townsman, Mr. Albert Dozier, head salesman for the Arcadia Mercantile Company. Mr. Dozier and his sister left Sunday morning to attend the funeral. A hunting accident. I can see some more headstones over here. Let's go see what we got. First, let's go check out this wrought iron, see what's in there. You can see there's several unmarked graves here, like that one and that one. Some you can't read, so we won't be able to tell about all of them. I'm more interested around a lot of this old brick structure watching for snakes. You can see here where the bricks are just piled. Growths overtook them over the years. Pretty neat brick with some headstones. Let's see if we can read that one. John Randall. There's another one here. Looks like added after the fact. Captain Vans Randall. You can see, you got to be careful in places like this. You can see here behind it where some other graves are sinking in. So that's some begs. We are hunting the begs. I don't believe that's the begs we're hunting. The America J Beggs. We're actually hunting her husband. So he should be right here somewhere. This may be him over here. Yep. Kind of hard to see it. It's got some brick on the bottom. Get you out here where you can see the headstone a little better. Mr. Charles George Beggs, born September 29th, 1819 in Barnwell County, South Carolina. Died September the 2nd, 1894 in Madison County, Florida. Mr. Charles Beggs, Charlie, served in the Civil War in 2 different companies. One of those companies was Company G, 3rd Regiment Florida Infantry. He made the rank of 3rd Lieutenant. He also served in Company E, 11th Regiment of Florida Infantry, where he made the rank of Captain. Now let's talk about the 3rd Regiment. Some of the skirmishes that he may have been involved in, we don't know, but he may have been. Now, achieving rank like he has, I'd say there's a high probability. Company G, 3rd Regiment were involved in skirmishes at the Brick Church in Duval County, which is now in Jacksonville, part of Jacksonville, March of 1862. Also, the Battle of Stones River near Murfreesboro, Tennessee, in December of 1862. The Jackson Expedition, or known by some as the Siege of Jackson near Jackson, Mississippi, in July of 1863. The Battle of Chickamauga in Katasua in Walker County, Georgia, September of 1863. The Chattanooga Campaign in Chattanooga, Tennessee during September to November of 1863. The Atlanta Campaign, the Battle of New Hope, the Battle of Atlanta, and the Battle of Ezra Church, and the Siege of Atlanta in May through September of 1864. Battle of Spring Hill in Moore County, Tennessee in November of 1864. Also the Second Battle of Franklin in Franklin, Tennessee, November the 30th of 1864. The Battle of Nashville in Nashville, Tennessee in December of 1864. The Battle of Bentonville, which was part of the campaign of the Carolinas in March of 1865. So it's safe to say, when you see the ranks that he achieved, he probably saw action in at least one or more, if not all, of those campaigns as they were marching through. So, no doubt this man here seen some stuff. Mr. Charlie Beggs. So we've already found congressman, senator, a majorly decorated Civil War veteran in this cemetery. We're now at the end of this wrought iron. We're working our way back on the second row in here. Kind of befitting too that we're out here on Memorial Day. Joseph Young. Oddly, I couldn't find a whole lot on Mr. Young. Very surprised, because I did find a lot of pictures on the internet of him wearing Civil War era uniforms and standing next to other people in Civil War uniforms. So I would have to be sure that he did serve during the Civil War, but I just couldn't find a whole lot on him. Henrietta Fair Hunter. She was actually the wife to Mr. Young. Now, as you can see here, there are no headstones. But if you really look at the ground, you can tell there's at least 3 other graves right here that are sunk in. Pretty much all of the marked graves were in the iron fence. So now we're going to back up and hit these couple that's here by themselves, and then we're going to work our way down through the cemetery and hit some of these others. A lot of these old broken ones that swore you can't read them. Let's walk over here. That looks like a service stone. And it is. I can't find a whole lot on there, but it says Thomas A. Jones, born in 1847, died in 1912. So he'd have been pretty young when he went into the war. Company F, 4th Georgia Cavalry, Confederate States Army. When you see these old magnificent trees, you just think about these trees witnessed most all these burials, even the early ones. All right, Barker family. We have come into some more Confederate history here. Elijah Barker. Elijah Barker was a sergeant, captain fought in his cow cavalry. This is his wife, Rebecca, buried right next to him. A little bit of history on Captain Faulkner's cow cavalry. If you do some history on them, they participated in several things around Florida as a home guard, trying to protect the salt works, trying to protect the cattle, mainly trying to protect raids that were being carried out by Union forces in this area of Florida. Several of the battles that they were involved in was a deadly skirmish at Bowlegs Creek near Fort Meade, Florida, when Union troops attacked the cow cavalry, April the 7th, 1864. They were also involved in a skirmish at Rocky Point near Tampa, Florida, trying to defend some salt works that was there in December the 3rd, 1864. Also, another battle that they were involved in was known as the Battle of Station 4 at Cedar Key, Florida, which occurred on February the 13th, 1865. And also the Battle of Fort Myers in February of 1865, around I believe it was on the 20th from what I read. Not to mention several other small skirmishes that happened around Taylor County and Madison and Steinhatchee and over around the Osceola River. Now he's got another family member that's buried out here somewhere in the Barker family that was also part of that same cavalry. I'm trying to find him, and he may be one of the ones that's turned over that you can't read. His name was Daniel Barker. Elijah was born in September 2nd, 1825 and died in January the 7th, 1894. Okay, here's Daniel's headstone. Probably about 20-25 feet from Elijah's headstone. Daniel was born on March 28th, 1828 and died March 1st, 1880. He also served in Captain Faulkner's cow cavalry. Now located just around from the Barkers here is Mr. George Columbus Collins. His headstone's done turned over. Here's a picture of what it looked like before it turned over. Born March the 11th, 1838 and died June the 2nd, 1916. Mr. Collins I was able to find online as a private in Company I, 2nd Regiment, Florida Cavalry. Now if you look that up, that regiment was involved in heavily protecting the Confederates' right flank at the Battle of Olustee. They also fought in skirmishes in Gainesville and at Braddock's Farm. So high likelihood he was at the Battle of Olustee. Just as a reference where you know where we're making our way through here, we parked up on that hill. We come over first to those graves. The wrought iron fences that we went in are right through here. We come back to the Barkers, Mr. Collins, and now we're going to pick up here and then do those on the other side. Here's some sago palms and things growed up. I believe there's some headstones in there, but I believe they're turned over. Yeah, I cannot read these. We're over now where this sago palm is. It's growing out of control. And there are some headstones here. You can see one there, piece of one there. I mean, that thing is just massive. That sago been there for years. And I can see a piece of a headstone sticking out of it. You can see it right there. You can see here on the other side there's a piece of that sticking out. I don't know, before we go over there, let's just see. Yeah, there's another one there and one here. The sagos have just really took off here. I'll be stirred up a damn rattlesnake. Yeah, I ain't messing with that. We'll ease through these. If I see any that traced anything, I'll let you know. These appear to all be members of the Shaw family in the late 1800s. Got some delauders. Reed, R-E-I-D, William L. Quite a few Reeds here, Joseph Reed. But now, like I say, you can see there are some of the old style brick grays that are unmarked. Charlotte McGee. All right, a little bit of history here. Charlotte is the wife of Judge John C. McGee. Found a little bit of information on these two online, not just counting his public realm. I'll read to you here. It's an article I found online. Though small mention is made of his name in the histories of Florida, Judge John C. McGee was one of the outstanding figures of the state between the years 1835 and 1865. Born in Abbeville, South Carolina on September 6, 1801, after leaving the school, John McGee took up a study of law and practiced it in Cambridge. In 1823, he was married to Charlotte Dozier of that same city. In 1831, Judge McGee and his wife moved to Florida and settled in Madison County. Nothing was considered too good for his wife, and he wanted to have the finest home in the state and did everything in his power to provide it for her. Most of the timber for the mansion was cut from his own plantation, and much of the furniture was made from that same source, which was cut in a sawmill built near the house for convenience. Among his nearly 100 slaves, there was sufficient help to clear the ground. Sawyers and cabinet makers were brought from afar. The fine furniture and china, silver were imported. Each day, the judge and his wife planned the happy times they would have in their new home when it would be built and completed. While waiting for the mansion to be finished, they lived in a temporary home called Oakland. The new plantation was named Chuluta, or Chuliota, an Indian word meaning Pine Hill. On August 7, 1858, the mansion planned by Mrs. McGee was completed, but sorrow settled in the home, for she died that very day. This was a great blow to the true heart of Judge McGee, but the Christian fortitude he bore his sorrow. He was always interested in civic matters pertaining to the state. He was also the president of the Florida Session Convention on January of 1861. So his wife never got to live in the new home. See quite a few Wallers buried in here, W-A-L-L-E-R. See what this one is while we're there. Several over there we may not get to see. Look like the tree fell on them. Clifford Waller. We done seen that one back there. Well, no, let's go ahead and finish these here around these before we go. That's a pretty good sized mound of brick there around that. Headstone broke off. James Artis, James H. Artis. There's another one with brick. There's a brick one. There's a brick one. Let's see who we got here. Can't read it. We'll work our way to them few over there and see if we can read them in just a second. First, we'll go ahead and knock out these few since we're here. Infant son of McCall. Benjamin F. Ellison, right here on the buried back of the cemetery. Benjamin was born May the 22nd, 1816, and died in 1877. He served in the Confederate States Army in Company D, 1st Regiment, Florida Infantry Reserves. Now, if you're familiar with much of the reading in our area here in North Florida, they participated in the Battle of Olustee, the Battle of Santa Rosa, fought at Pensacola, and the Battle of the Natural Bridge. So you can only imagine what action this man may have seen. All right, we've made it to the back here. We're going to go over and do them couple we missed right yonder. And then we're going to get back and do this center strip back down to where I showed you it was so growed up we couldn't see. I can't really read these. A couple inside there. The tree has fell on. We ain't going to try to fish around in there and get on a snake. Too hot in the day, he'll be too hopped up. If you know anything about reptiles, that's a pretty headstone. That's made of metal. Frederick Sanders. That's a little different. Another sago. How many years you reckon that's been there? That thing must be 20 foot tall. Here we come to the grave of Eugene Armstrong. It's November of 1874, he moved to Madison County, Florida. He came here and became heavily involved in farming and took an active part in politics. He became an active worker and leader among the Democrats, and as a reward, his party nominated and was elected sheriff in 1896. He served 4 years, credibly, was re-elected in November of 1900. In January 1881, he was married to Anna, daughter of Charles and America Beggs. Now, Mr. Beggs is the one that we talked about that served in the 3rd Regiment of Florida. So he'd have been his son-in-law. As I was walking, I just happened to notice something kind of cool here I wanted to show you. A tree growing out of an old tree. It's just, I don't know if I can really show you how big this is, but the stone to the left of it's 4 foot high and about 3 foot across. You see that the outside of that is an old tree that's dead. It reaches up. And out to the side, coming out of it, is a brand new oak tree. That's wild. Walk around and look at it. You can see that one's completely dead. It's just hanging there. Probably the only thing holding it up is this new tree that grew out of it. It's even got a limb growing out of it way up there. That limb starts down here at this split and comes out. So it just never got a chance to fall on over, being held up. Pretty neat. One of the stones I couldn't find in here that was supposed to have been here that I had done my research on was from an Artemus Butler Bunting. He was a private in Company I, 2nd Regiment, Florida Cavalry. According to a survey that was done a while back, the stone was supposed to be here. I could not find that stone. I don't know if it's been knocked over or buried or destroyed, or maybe it's in some of the growed up stuff. But anyhow, there's a lot more than that buried here. There's several Confederate ancestors that's buried here that are not marked. Probably some of these brick piles or some of the sunk in spots you've seen. So I thought this would be an interesting Memorial Day for me. I'd been here into this cemetery and researched it a little bit and just wanted to come see it. Anyhow, I appreciate y'all joining me. Just a little bit more of your North Florida cemetery history. Y'all have a great day.